Have you ever wondered why some people end up with deep regrets during retirement, despite being kind-hearted their entire lives? What if being too nice is quietly draining your happiness and stealing your peace of mind without you even noticing? Are you ready to discover why, in retirement, protecting your peace, your dignity, and your future sometimes means being unapologetically firm, even if others think you're being too harsh? The truth is, once you reach your 60s, 70s, or even your 80s, there are certain things you simply cannot compromise on. This isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about drawing clear lines to protect your own well-being. You may feel like others are expecting too much from you, whether it's your children leaning on you too often, relatives getting too involved in your life, or society sending you the message that you should just stay quiet and compliant. But it's time to challenge that thinking. Being kind does not mean becoming a pushover, and being loving does not require you to stay silent when something doesn't sit right with you. In fact, the sooner you learn to guard your energy, protect your time, and defend your self-respect, without guilt or apology, the more joyful and peaceful your retirement years will become. In today's video, we're going to walk through 7 specific areas where you need to be a little more ruthless after the age of 70. Not because you've grown bitter or hard-hearted, but because you've grown wiser. And wisdom often shows up in the form of firm boundaries, the courage to say no, and the freedom to choose yourself without regret. Let's begin with the first and perhaps most important lesson: protecting your time. One of the very first things you need to fiercely protect in retirement is your time. It may sound simple or even selfish to some people, but if you're not careful, your precious time will start slipping away, taken in small bits and pieces by everyone around you, until there's hardly any left for yourself. People tend to assume that because you're retired, your days are wide open and available for everyone else's needs. They expect you to babysit on demand, run errands at their convenience, answer every phone call immediately, and drop everything to help them out whenever they ask. But let's be honest, that's not freedom. That's just another kind of schedule, one you didn't sign up for. Your time, especially in your 70s and 80s, is more valuable than ever. Every hour, every moment counts. You've earned this stage of life, and you have every right to protect it. Your time has never been more valuable than it is right now. Every hour, every minute should be spent on something you genuinely choose, something that brings you joy, peace, or fulfillment. It should never feel like something you've been cornered or pressured into. That doesn't mean you have to stop helping others entirely, or that you need to say no to everything. It simply means making intentional choices about how you spend your time. You don't owe your time to others just because they're family, or because they've grown accustomed to you always being available. If someone gets upset because you decided to take a quiet morning for yourself, perhaps instead of watching their kids or running errands with them, that's not your guilt to carry. Their disappointment is not your responsibility. This is really about reclaiming control over your life. When we don't actively choose how we spend our time, we can start to feel invisible, like we're just a background character in someone else's story. And that's when resentment quietly begins to grow. You may say yes to avoid conflict, but deep inside, you feel worn down, drained, and silently wishing someone would finally notice just how much of your life you've been sacrificing. I remember Walter, a friend of mine who's 78. He loved his daughter and his grandkids dearly, but she had gotten into the habit of asking him to come over 3, sometimes even 4, times a week to help out. He kept saying yes out of guilt and love, but over time, he realized he wasn't enjoying it anymore. He missed his morning walks, his peaceful afternoons, and the simple pleasure of having a quiet home. One day, he finally spoke up. He told his daughter, "I'll help twice a week, but the rest of my time belongs to me." At first, she wasn't happy about it. Change rarely feels easy, but over time, she came to understand. And as for Walter, he felt a huge sense of relief. He finally felt like his life was his again. Being cruel in this context isn't about being cold-hearted. It's about being clear about your limits, clear about what energizes you and what drains you. And above all, clear about the fact that your time, especially now, is not an endless buffet for everyone to take from. Now, let's move on to something just as important: guarding your finances. If there's one area where you absolutely must stand firm, almost to the point of being unshakable, it's your money. Retirement is not the time to become the family's personal bank, handing out money to anyone who knocks at your door. You worked hard for that money. You put in decades of effort to build it. That money isn't extra just because you're no longer bringing in a paycheck. It's your security. It's your freedom. And far too many seniors lose that safety net because they struggle with one simple but powerful word: no. There's often a quiet, unspoken pressure in families. Maybe a grown child asks for help covering rent. Maybe it starts with a small request, a relative asking for a loan to start a business, or a grandchild needing help to pay for an expensive college. At first, it all feels reasonable, even manageable. You tell yourself it's just a one-time favor, something you can easily afford. But before you realize it, the requests keep coming. Little by little, the amounts grow. And suddenly, you've given away far more than you ever intended. Not because you were reckless, not because you weren't careful with your money, but simply because you were kind-hearted. Yet here's a hard truth. Kindness without clear boundaries can cost you far more than just money. It can rob you of your peace, your dignity, and your ability to make independent choices about your own future. There's a reason financial abuse is among the most common forms of elder abuse, and often it doesn't even look like abuse at all. It's disguised in polite requests. Could you just help me this once? Or soft promises, I'll pay you back next month. Sometimes it even comes wrapped in guilt-inducing words like, you're not using that money anyway. But behind those words is something far more damaging: the gradual erosion of your financial security. Saying no isn't cruel. It isn't selfish. It's wise. It's necessary. I remember Marlene, a warm-hearted woman I once knew, who was 74 at the time. She had always believed in helping her children get back on their feet, and she did, over and over again. She gave generously, thinking she was just being a good parent. But then came the day when her roof needed repairs. She reached into her emergency fund and realized there wasn't enough left. Her children weren't ignoring her. They simply couldn't afford to help her in return. And that's when the guilt settled in. Not toward them, but toward herself. Deep down, she knew she had crossed her own limits too many times. She regretted not setting firmer boundaries earlier. This is your life, your legacy, your safety net. Don't let guilt fool you into believing that saying no to others means saying no to love. Those who genuinely care about you will understand when you set healthy limits. And if they don't understand, that speaks volumes. Not about you, but about them. If you're still watching this video and finding these reflections helpful, please leave a comment with the number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend you do so now. Click subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Your support allows us to continue creating thoughtful, inspiring content for you. Now, let's continue with the next important reminder: saying no to unwanted obligations. One of the most overlooked and liberating freedoms of retirement is this: you no longer have to say yes just to please others. Not every invitation, not every request, not every family gathering, holiday dinner, or weekly errand deserves your automatic agreement. Yet, many older adults fall into the habit of saying yes over and over, often out of fear of disappointing someone, or simply because they've been conditioned to put others first. Many people continue saying yes when deep down, they really want to say no, simply because they're afraid of being seen as selfish. But here's a hidden truth that too few talk about. This habit of always agreeing, always putting others first, becomes one of the biggest regrets people carry quietly into their 80s and 90s. After decades of being dependable, responsible, and helpful, it can feel uncomfortable, even unnatural, to finally step back and prioritize yourself. But retirement isn't about being selfish. It's about self-respect. It's about reclaiming your time and energy without guilt or apology. Saying, "I'm not up for that today," isn't cold or uncaring. It's simply honest. And honesty, especially about your limits, is a skill that many people never fully learn until much later in life. I remember Walter, the same man I mentioned before, who was 78 and loved his grandchildren dearly. Every Saturday, without fail, he would drive them to their sports practices, sacrificing his weekends completely. You could see the exhaustion in his eyes, though he never once complained. He kept showing up, week after week, because he thought it was expected of him. But one day, something inside him shifted. He finally told his daughter, with gentle honesty, that he wanted his Saturdays back to rest and enjoy his own time. To his surprise, she wasn't angry at all. In fact, she said, "I thought you enjoyed it. I never knew you felt obligated." That's the truth right there. People can't respect boundaries that were never communicated. You have to show others where your lines are before they can honor them. Protecting your energy, your time, and your well-being isn't selfish. It's an act of wisdom. You don't owe anyone lengthy explanations for choosing peace, quiet, or simply a moment for yourself. You've spent a lifetime giving, sacrificing, and doing your part. Now, you've earned the right to choose how you spend your time and who you share your energy with. If someone gets upset because you finally put yourself first, it may be because they've simply gotten too comfortable with you, always putting yourself last. And that's not love. That's expectation. You have every right to decide what matters most to you now. Your days are yours to enjoy. And after 70, your time becomes more precious than gold. Don't waste it trying to prove your worth to people who've already had more of your time and energy than they ever acknowledged or appreciated. Now, let's talk about something equally important: cutting off guilt-based spending. There's a quiet trap that many retirees fall into: spending money not because they want to, but because they feel guilty if they don't. Guilt can be a powerful force. It can make people buy things they don't need or want, simply to avoid saying no. It can convince parents to keep financially supporting grown children who aren't truly in need. And it often pushes grandparents to cover bills, pay for extras. It often starts with good intentions. You cover a grandchild's trip, pick up the bill at every family dinner, or keep saying yes to expenses. Not because you're truly happy to do it, but because you're afraid of being seen as stingy, selfish, or unloving. But here's the hard truth that few people talk about. Constantly giving out of guilt drains far more than just your bank account. It quietly empties your sense of freedom and joy. Before you know it, you start holding back from things you once enjoyed. You stop planning for your own future. Your savings no longer feel like a well-deserved reward for a lifetime of hard work. Instead, they begin to feel like a target, something others are watching, quietly calculating, waiting to ask for. I once knew a woman named Helen who was 75. She had a kind heart and couldn't bear to see her son struggle. Her 45-year-old son regularly racked up credit card debt, and each time she bailed him out. When asked why, she'd simply say, "I can't say no, he's my son." But over time, something shifted. Helen began skipping her own dental appointments because she said they were too expensive. She stopped going to the gym, even though she loved it, claiming it was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. What she didn't realize was that every time she paid off her son's debts, she was quietly taking something away from herself: her health, her happiness, and her independence. Retirement isn't meant to turn you into a personal ATM. It's your time to finally enjoy the freedom and peace you've earned through years of hard work. If your money isn't bringing you peace of mind, then it's not being spent in a way that truly serves you. Generosity can be a wonderful thing, but only when it comes from joy, not guilt. When you give because it brings you happiness, it's fulfilling. But when you give because you feel pressured or obligated, it slowly chips away at your well-being. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please take a moment to leave a comment with the number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future videos. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful and inspiring content for you. Now, let's talk about another common trap in retirement: saying no to unwanted social obligations. Once you retire, people around you often assume you have endless free time. Suddenly, you find yourself being asked to join every church group, neighborhood committee, volunteer event, and family gathering. At first, it feels flattering to be needed. It's nice to feel included and appreciated, but very quickly, it can start to feel overwhelming. Your calendar becomes packed with events and commitments you never asked for and don't even enjoy. This is where kindness can easily be mistaken for availability. Just because you're retired doesn't mean your time is up for grabs. Your time is still yours to control. If you automatically say yes to every invitation, sooner or later you'll realize you've accidentally recreated the same kind of stress you thought you had left behind when you walked away from the working world. I remember Harold, my 78-year-old neighbor, who used to say yes to every church event, every potluck, every cleanup crew. He'd shrug and say, "I don't want to disappoint anyone," but over time, the cost of that constant agreement became clear. Harold started skipping his morning walks, the quiet time he used to treasure. He no longer had time to sit with his favorite books like he once did. Slowly, his days filled up with everyone else's requests, leaving little space for himself. Eventually, his doctor gave him advice that surprised him. The doctor didn't tell him to cut back on sugar or salt, but on obligations. That's the truth we often forget. You don't need to explain or justify how you spend your time to anyone else. If you want to spend an entire afternoon tending to your garden or simply sitting by the window with a cup of coffee, enjoying the view, that's not selfish. That's self-care. That's self-preservation. Retirement isn't meant to be a second shift. It's the season of life where you finally get to live entirely on your own terms. When you protect your peace, you're not just safeguarding your calendar, you're also protecting your physical health, your mental energy, and your personal happiness. And here's the beauty of it: people will adjust. They'll come to respect the new version of you, one who sets boundaries not out of guilt, but out of love for yourself. Now, let's talk about another important area: guarding your private finances. Money becomes one of the biggest sources of stress during retirement, especially when others start viewing your finances as if they're a shared family fund. It often starts small: a child who's short on bills this month, a grandchild asking for help with college tuition, or a sibling who casually says, "You don't mind, do you?" But over time, what starts as small requests can quietly shift into expectations. And that's where it becomes dangerous, because it's often hardest to say no to the people you love most. I've seen this situation unfold many times. Retirees, out of kindness, slowly drain their savings to help others, only to discover later that they've left themselves without enough for their own essential needs. Healthcare, daily living expenses, or even funeral costs can become serious burdens, and when that happens, nobody else remembers how it all began. But you do. Helping your family isn't wrong. In fact, generosity can be beautiful, but it should come from abundance, not from your essential foundation. Your pension, your savings, your home equity, these are not family funds. They're your safety net, your freedom, your hard-earned security. You don't owe anyone a detailed breakdown of your finances. You have every right to keep your accounts private and to refuse any questions that make you feel uncomfortable. If someone keeps asking about your money in ways that feel invasive or unsettling, that's already a clear sign that stronger boundaries are needed. Setting firm limits around your finances isn't harsh or unkind. It's wise, it's responsible, and it's how you ensure that the person who spent a lifetime taking care of everyone else, you, is finally protected too. That's how you make sure the version of you, the one who spent years working hard, caring for others, and sacrificing, doesn't end up forgotten or overlooked when it matters most. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights helpful, please take a moment to leave a comment with the number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Go ahead and click that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on any of our future videos. Your support means everything and allows us to keep creating meaningful, inspiring content just for you. Now, let's dive into the final and perhaps most empowering reminder: refusing to apologize for wanting peace. One of the hardest parts of retirement isn't the quiet itself, it's how others respond to it. People often expect you to always be available. They expect you to say yes to everything, to attend every family gathering, volunteer at every event, offer a listening ear, provide support, lend a hand, and keep smiling through it all, without ever pushing back. But what happens when all you really want is peace? What if the drama, the noise, the constant requests, and emotional demands no longer align with the kind of life you wish to lead? Somewhere along the way, many of us were taught to believe that saying no is selfish, that stepping away from chaos or choosing solitude somehow makes us cold, distant, or unkind. But none of that is true. It actually takes incredible strength to prioritize peace. It takes courage to say, "This is what I need right now, and I don't owe anyone an explanation for it." Peace isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. You are not here to be everyone's therapist, everyone's banker, everyone's babysitter, or their emotional sponge who absorbs the weight of their struggles. You've lived long enough to know that people-pleasing often comes at a high price. It costs you your health, your sleep, your peace of mind, your emotional balance, and sometimes even your dignity. By the time you reach your 70s, 75, or even 80, you have earned the absolute right to protect your energy and your well-being. You deserve to spend your mornings however you like, whether it's enjoying quiet moments, ending phone calls when you've had enough, skipping dinners you don't feel up for, or simply choosing to sit with your own thoughts without anyone interrupting. You're allowed to read that book, take that walk, or just breathe in the calm without feeling the need to explain yourself to anyone. And if someone tries to make you feel guilty for choosing peace, let them. That guilt isn't yours to carry. You don't owe anyone an apology for wanting calm in your life. In fact, the older you get, the clearer it becomes. Peace isn't some luxury or special reward. It's a basic necessity. It's what keeps you grounded, keeps you healthy, keeps you kind, and keeps you truly alive. Not just existing, but fully living. Choosing peace isn't cruel. It's not selfish or harsh. It's a quiet form of bravery, the courage to reclaim your life, your time, and your happiness. And there's nothing to feel bad about in that choice. A lot of people view retirement as the finish line, the point where everything slows down, where life becomes soft, easy, and carefree. But the reality is, retirement brings a whole new set of challenges, and if you're not careful, you could easily find yourself slipping into the same old pattern, living for everyone else, while neglecting your own needs. That's why learning to be just a little cruel isn't really about being unkind at all. It's about finally standing up for yourself with strength and clarity. It's about drawing firm lines around your time, your finances, your emotions, and your peace, so that the life you've worked so hard to build isn't drained away by constant demands. Because in the end, what matters most is that these years, this chapter of your life, are lived with dignity, not depletion. So, which of these 7 boundaries resonated most with you today? Is there one area where you know, deep down, it's time to be a bit more direct, a little more protective of yourself? Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you've learned from this video and how you plan to apply it in your own life. Your thoughts and reflections mean so much to us, so don't hesitate to share. Reading your comments always brings us motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with others. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful, inspiring content that's designed to inform and empower you. Thank you again for watching. Wishing you great health, lasting happiness, and peace in all that you do. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.